All right, everyone. Thank you for joining today. We appreciate you attending. Thank you to our partners and thank you to our guests. My name is Albert Diaz. I'm the CEO and founder of RingLogix. And with us today, we have we have Paul Redding from Compliancy Group, and we are going to be talking about HIPAA compliance and the importance of HIPAA compliance for voice providers and MSPs. So, like I said, my name is Albert Diaz. I'm the CEO and founder. I'm also the product architect and the guy responsible for building the RingLogix reseller platform. And with us today, we have Paul Redding. He's the VP of Partner Engagement and Cybersecurity over at Compliancy Group. And what we're going to be talking about, like I said, we're going to be talking about HIPAA compliance, the importance of service providers, the importance to MSPs, and very important to us, we do have a very big announcement for our active partners and for our guests. And that is that RingLogix is officially HIPAA compliant. It's extremely exciting. And what it means is that we've successfully completed the audit and verification process, which allows us to officially say that we are HIPAA compliant and verified, right? It means that we have trained our staff. It means that we have prepared our network and its data, and we have documented the entire process for future verification. And now the biggest part of this is that unlike some other carriers that can claim that they're HIPAA verified, but they won't sign BA agreements, we are officially HIPAA verified, and we can now sign BA agreements for our partners as a HIPAA verified vendor. Now, why do we become HIPAA compliant, and why do we work with Compliancy Group, right? So the most important thing is that the reason for us to be HIPAA compliant is to protect our resellers, okay? It's extremely important to us, and that's the very, very first reason why we did it. Now, in addition to that, it allows us to differentiate ourselves in the market. You know, the fact of the matter is very few people in our position, in our space, are willing to actually go out and get HIPAA verified. And by being HIPAA verified, it does kind of allow us to stand out from the crowd, from the other vendors out there. Equally, you know, we want to build an internal culture of compliance. You know, it's important that our employees and our staff and our contractors understand that we are very concerned about our customers' data, their customers' data, and the overall structure of our network. And then last but not least, guys, I mean, it allows us to sell higher value compliance solutions, right? We now enable ourselves to go after larger opportunities, larger partners, and at the same time, we also can help you become HIPAA verified as well.
All right. Thanks for that introduction, Albert. Pleasure being out here today. This is Paul from Compliancy Group, everybody. Welcome. And I'd like to follow up. I know that he said why they work with Compliancy Group. And for those of you not familiar with us, let me tell you who we are. Compliancy Group is a 2005 begun industry standard in healthcare. We were founded by HIPAA auditors. So we come out of the healthcare space and we've become something of an industry standard there. We're endorsed by more than 40 major medical associations. Many of the vendors in the healthcare space, for example, EHR companies, different healthcare organizations like the American Optometric, endorse our seal of compliance as their preferred way for their members and partners to illustrate their HIPAA compliance to the world. This seal is what RingLogix just achieved. Our seal is not given lightly. It's the result of you going through our process, which is a time-tested and auditor-built process to deliver complete and total HIPAA compliance. And when we issue that seal, what it means is we've gone through an organization, we said top to bottom, from an operational perspective, from a technical perspective, policies and procedures, all of these things are capable of passing a HIPAA audit. And therefore, when we issue the seal, we're very proud to say no one carrying this seal has ever failed one of those HIPAA audits. Now, we've been in that space, like I said, 15 years. During that time, just given our size and scope, we are engaged in 2 or 3 major federal audits at any given moment. The standard failure rate in healthcare for HIPAA is 94%. And again, nobody that's gone through what RingLogix just did has ever failed one of those audits because we are now willing to defend them and show what they've done to achieve their compliance. Now, as your partner, as a voice provider to you downstream as resellers, that means RingLogix has gone through a lot of things that most people in their or organizations in their position have not. They've jumped through some technical hoops, they've overcome some obstacles and gone through a process that many, many providers are simply either unwilling or unable to. And the purpose for that is to be able to give you something that you can safely and confidently sell downstream into healthcare and know it checks off all those HIPAA boxes. Now, That being said, the reason that we're here today and the reason that RingLogix is so concerned that you guys hear from us is because just because RingLogix themselves has achieved HIPAA compliance does not actually cover you as a reseller when you're working with those medical clients, okay? Your vendor, and this is universal no matter what vendor it is, your vendor's compliance does not extend to you. This isn't a waterfall effect where RingCentral or RingLogix becomes a provider for you. They sign your business associate agreement and you're covered and you can now go sell to a hospital, right? You are actually obligated yourself to do the same thing because you're kind of the front line, right? Now, obviously, there's some things you have to do to achieve this, but there's tremendous opportunity out there if you do so. For example, simply being HIPAA compliant allows you to go out and sell to organizations you otherwise never could, okay? It protects you and your business at a level that you don't have in place right now because all the security that you can put out there and anything you do from a technical perspective is risk management, but it doesn't address the fact that you are sharing in your client's liability. And now lastly, another thing to consider is when you as a technology provider are selling downstream into this client space, they're looking to you to answer these kind of questions. They assume that when it comes to technology, security, and even compliance, you are the people to see. You're that trusted advisor. So it's an opportunity for you to stand out from the crowd, for you to show yourself to be something different and larger than your competitors, and prove that this massive healthcare industry should look to you for service. Now, the reason that RingLogix, all these different vendors in the space are so concerned about working with healthcare, the reason this is such a big vertical, well, I mean, partially because healthcare, even let's say pre-COVID, was already over 30 or almost 30% of the US economy, okay? Healthcare is a huge section of our economy, like, let's say manufacturing and finance, but unlike some of those other sectors, let's say finance specifically, it's dominated by a very few organizations at the top with a whole ton of money that trickles that down to some small businesses that support them. Healthcare is the exact opposite. Healthcare is an inverted pyramid. You've got 5+ million small to mid-sized businesses, privately held organizations that are the kind of organization that works with providers like you. They don't all have sophisticated, massive internal IT shops. They're not all heavily qualified in either security or communications. These are the kind of vendors that work with organizations like yours. And they have a massive need. See, like I told you, the audit rate under a HIPAA or the failure rate under a HIPAA audit is 94%. That means over 9 out of 10 organizations, when they get in trouble, are going to fail and receive massive fines, okay? And the government realizes they're not doing this right, that there is this giant gap. So the government is enforcing these fines more and more and more. Now, another reason that I believe the government is going to focus on them in the coming years is because healthcare is not going anywhere. This has been kind of a crazy year, I know, for everyone, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. But I'll tell you now that history tells us that no matter what happens economically, no matter who's in the White House, healthcare continues to grow. In the last major recession, healthcare is the #1 performing sector in the entire economy. In fact, over half of all job growth during that time was directly in the healthcare sector. And guys, that's going to happen again. We as an American society are completely married to healthcare. Obviously, it's no secret that the baby boomers are getting older, entering into their twilight years, but the entire population of the country is, I hate to break it to you, fatter, older, and less healthy than we were 10, 15 years ago. And this trend is also going to increase. And realize that, say there isn't an economic breakdown here, it's actually caused by a healthcare crisis, right? So no matter what happens, the US government is going to continue to pump more and more money into this sector. It's ripe to be an opportunity for all vendors in the future, and other industries are not as certain. And I told you this industry needs you. If you're a managed service provider, an IT security provider, a communications provider, this is a sector that's looking for help, okay? Hospital administrators in my world, living and breathing in that healthcare space, these guys are kind of the cream of the crop. These are some of the top admins of IT in the healthcare space. And when surveyed, they say they have no idea what to do about the cybersecurity risks and the breach risks that they face moving forward. The government tells us that we're going to have increasingly more attacks attacks. And there's something that I'll throw in here at the bottom. Recently, on the West Coast, we actually saw a hospital experience a ransomware attack. It shut down their systems and they had to turn away ambulances for hours. People are dying because ransomware attacks happen in healthcare, because this industry is underserved. And I'll throw it back in here. Whether it's the industry itself, let's say healthcare, or the business associates supporting it, if you screw up with HIPAA, if you make a mistake, everybody's going to know. Guys, this is called the HIPAA wall of shame. You can look this up, but this is a who's who of good folks that bad things happen to. The average HIPAA fine is $1.5 million. If you have a breach and you're found negligent under the law, you're going to be fined, but just as badly, your name, your business, everything about that incident is going to go on this website and you can never, ever take it down. The damage to your reputation is permanent. This is a list of people that when you see it, vendors and medical providers, I don't know if I want to work with them. Now, I told you that RingLogix has gone out here, and what they've done is they have achieved compliance on their end. They have made sure that their system is designed to be sold into healthcare by you. What does that mean they've done? Well, I'll tell you this. The rules are the same for everybody. Whether you're trying to secure a phone system, or you're trying to secure an office, a server, a remote worker environment, the technical requirements for HIPAA are all the same, guys. They require a series of kind of vaguely described technical controls, beginning with access control, protecting the endpoint for all the IT folks out there. This is your EDR and MDR, monitoring and auditing, encryption, backup and disaster recovery. The things that have got to be baked into any system out there are the technical controls that HIPAA requires. Now, I'm going to talk to the IT service provider for a second, the managed service provider, the organization that's trying to sell technology that the end user doesn't necessarily understand. If you look at the rules that I just gave you, if you call out the things that HIPAA is asking for, it's literally your stack. The technology, what I call, I come from a managed services background myself, what I call the nerd stuff, that stuff that the client doesn't understand is called out by the rules of HIPAA, and it gives you that opportunity to show these are not suggestions. I'm not trying to talk you into weird tech you don't need. This stuff is required under the law, and it gives you an opportunity to move that stuff in. If you're a pure voice provider, obviously you realize that a better managed network is easier to deploy into, and it's easier to support. We want well-built organizations to work with, guys, and HIPAA demands that. But just because you put in this stuff, if you get every piece of your stack into the client environment, or you protect your own house and you lay all this out, it does not make you HIPAA compliant. That is not where RingLogix stopped, okay? There are the administrative controls and the privacy controls of HIPAA that must be dealt with. The reality is the, air quotes, soft side of compliance is the thing that hits the hardest for most private organizations. What happens is we think of compliance and security as the same thing. So we look at all those technical controls I've put in place. Hey, I feel good about this stuff. RingLogix is taking care of all their stuff on their end. I've got my IT security great. It doesn't make you compliant. Realize that we had to take RingLogix through a process that did all of their assessments, all of their policies and procedures, trained all of their employees, pulled them into what Albert referred to as that culture of compliance. That's what it takes to pass an audit. And it does not matter, guys, if you are what we call a covered entity in HIPAA. Okay, covered entity is what you guys immediately think of. This is doctors, the dentist, your chiropractor, sure, healthcare providers of any kind, insurance providers. All those are covered entities. But understand that any organization working in healthcare at all that has one medical client can touch that PHI in any way possible is also in healthcare. It's called a business associate. It's why RingLogix cares. It's why you care. It's why you've been brought into this thing. And understand, the thing with the wall of shame, it's not just populated with covered entities. It's also populated with business associates. If the business associate does not have that same level of culture of compliance and a complete and total compliance plan, when an audit happens, you get brought into it and you also fail, okay? Now, I'm not going to turn this into an entire lesson about the HIPAA law. I don't think that it's beneficial for anybody out there for me to go through the 1,000 pages of HIPAA regulation that were written by lawyers to be interpreted by other lawyers and audited by even another set of lawyers, right? But what I can tell you is that if you work with Compliancy Group, this thing that looks so complicated that RingLogix looked at and said, wow, there's a lot for us to deal with here. This thing is actually, it boils down to just 1/3 of one rule for you, and we pick up and do all the rest of it. You get to live in securing your flag, keeping your home safe, putting in the technical controls on your side, signing that business associate agreement that we talked about with RingLogix, and Compliancy Group will come in and pick up everything around the privacy rule, the security rule, the omnibus rule, all this crazy thousands of pages of documentation and laws that you don't understand. It's a simple, concise, and quick process that puts you into a compliant frame and doesn't make you deal one at a time with all this stuff that really doesn't make sense to either the IT provider or the end user. Guys, there's 6 total audits that you have to do. When most people talk about HIPAA compliance, you think, right, I do an IT risk assessment, okay? True, and you actually audit the devices, but there are a whole stack of other things that Compliancy Group came in, picked up for RingLogix, took them through, and we just kind of walked them through this process, a thing like the high-tech Subtitle D privacy audit that we make simple and easy and take off your plate. And believe me, if you don't do them, these audits are the things that begin those $1.5 million fines. I ask every healthcare client that I potentially talk to when I was an MSP, I say, how'd you do on your high-tech Subtitle D privacy audit this year? When they stared at me like a deer in headlights, I said, hey, look, I don't know how that works either, but I got somebody that took that off my plate, and you will too. Because a service provider that doesn't understand what I'm talking about, or a medical group that thinks that all it takes to be HIPAA compliant, what they think they're doing is a thing called HIPAA light, okay? When I was out there running around as an MSP, there were a lot of people that when you talk to them, you'd say, what are you doing for HIPAA? Say, I do HIPAA light. What they mean by that is they're saying, I did the IT risk assessments, right? I did that portion of the law. I remediated the IT problems that came from it. And in many cases, I went to some website and I downloaded some policies and procedures and they're over there in that black folder, right? There's no such thing as HIPAA light, guys. HIPAA light is a way to fail an audit. It's like saying having antivirus secures your environment, right? It's not the case. Working with Compliancy Group, what RingLogix has done is the complete and total solution for HIPAA. They are HIPAA compliant. They've shown good faith under the law to do everything it takes, all the policies and procedures, incident management, the complicated pieces that so many people leave behind and result in that 94% failure rate. All of that's included in our services. And also, again, I'll talk to the managed service provider. Remember, by working with Compliancy Group and letting us teach your client what it really takes to become HIPAA compliant, we're going to show them that they need all that high-end advanced security stuff that's going to protect them. They don't have to understand how it works, but they need to understand what the law requires, and we do that for them, okay? That's why you want to be able to deliver compliance to your clients, guys. That wheel right there that shows that tech is only a small piece of this puzzle, it's not that tech's not critical, and it's not that you're not a technical provider. It's by delivering compliance, you get to go beyond that. You get to deliver a business solution. Okay. If I have a compliance problem, I don't have a tech problem. Tech is a symptom of my HIPAA compliance issue. My HIPAA compliance issue extends to my entire business unit, everyone that works there, and everything that I'm doing on a daily basis. Okay. So by you being able to come in and say, we're going to take care of your communications, we're going to take care of your IT, we're going to take care of your compliance, you're giving me a single solid solution, delivering ultimately safety and control within my organization, kind of putting me back at the reins, right? I'm willing to pay for that. I'm willing to listen to you talk about that, and you don't have to dig way down into the mud and get into all these technical things. You've kind of risen above that. That's what you have to do in order to deliver a solution like this. You're not going to go out and become a HIPAA compliance expert tomorrow. Okay. So you don't have to learn that 1,000 pages of documentation. What you've got to learn how to do anytime you're selling anything, honestly, in the modern world, is talk to a client on their level. Try not to confuse or make them uncomfortable, and bring them to you to understand why they want to buy. We call it a focus on education. This is a really big thing that you need to be able to do when selling a business solution. It's part of that is rising above that technology, getting out of the speeds and feeds, and giving the client something that they've got to be able to understand. And in order to make tech understandable, I live in analogies. I believe a real world example, reaching out, grabbing something that they've already got their head around, showing them how the solution that you have is similar to this and the problem they have is similar. You'll be able to talk to them at a more in-person, on their level, in a more on their level way. Okay. So when I talk about focusing on education, I told you don't have to become a HIPAA teacher, right? You need to know the basics, the things that I'm talking to you about today. One of the first ones to understand, let's talk about RingLogix and you, right? Tools and vendors cannot make you compliant. So if you go to a medical group or you're working with one already and you ask them what they're doing for HIPAA and they say, well, isn't that your job? No, it's not my job. Let me explain to you where what I do comes in. Remember, guys, you're 1/3 of one of those rules. You're part of the security rule. It's a critical piece. But what you don't do, your client needs to understand is their responsibility. It's part of teaching them, right? You hear what I'm saying right now. Nothing that I'm saying is, hey, give me your credit card, I'll make this go away. Believe me, in the end, the credit card's going to come out. The goal is that you want to sell a solution, but talk to them at an educational level. Don't try to engage and say, buy this and I make the pain stop. Okay. What you also don't want to do is tell them from the beginning, you know, they're wrong. I know I said it. There's a 94% failure rate in the market. So the odds are overwhelmingly in favor of the fact that if you looked at your client and you say, Doc, I know you're not HIPAA compliant, you're going to be right. Okay. There are many things that that client is not doing, but nobody likes to be put on the ropes like that. I don't want you to back me into a corner and tell me that what I'm doing is wrong. Lead me to water. Teach me and show me what it really takes and suggest, hey, we have these experts out here. We work with the compliancy group. Let me bring somebody in to purely educate you and make sure you have a complete view of what compliance looks like for your organization. Okay. By doing this, you've already taken out number two. You've risen above the tech because what you didn't do is go in and say, make you HIPAA compliant. Well, Doc, I've got EDR and MDR and SOC and SIM and bunch of Charlie Brown's teacher nerd stuff that they don't understand. If I am a non-technical person and you try to explain to me the steps that RingLogix has taken to secure their environment, the steps that you're going to put in, all the tools and what they do, I'll pick on one out there that I used to use, like Blackpoint Cybersecurity. If I want to explain to my client what that does and that person's non-technical, I'm going to make them uncomfortable. I'm going to make them anxious. They're pretty convinced that they don't understand why they're paying for it, but like the IT nerds are trying to tell them, I don't want to buy from you. I kind of want you to stop, right? But if you talk to me about my business, this is what I went to school for. This is what I fought for. This is what, I literally nailed the floors down here for. America is great because of small business. And it's a part of your life when you're the owner and the operator of these small businesses. When you talk to me about that and you talk to me about the risk to my business, how it's not this horrible, difficult thing to achieve, but it's something that can be easily done and managed, and that it's going to improve my reputation, my business, the control thereof, and make me more profitable and successful, I'm listening. I want to hear that, right? I'm no longer anxious. I want to know what that costs. What you just said right there, you're telling me that you can put together all these things that I don't understand, and you can make them go away. How are you going to do that? Now, guys, this is what I used to do. This is my story, okay? I believed in analogies. So what I would say is, because I'm going to build you a house, Doc, you have a single big problem. Tech is a problem. HIPAA is a problem. Communications and the security thereof is a problem. Telehealth is a problem for you, right? All these things need to be addressed, and we're not going to piecemeal this out, and I'm not going to give you a 27-page quote that makes no sense. Instead, I'm going to take all my tools and put them together. I'm going to work on what we do best, and we're going to bring in compliancy group that is an absolute expert in all of the compliance and regulatory mess that you have to deal with. Together, we're going to build you a house, because there's a bunch of stuff out there in the world that you want protection from, and we're going to keep those elements out. Now, the difference in that, what I'm selling now, and when I used to go out and sell a stack of tech tools and let them kind of like decide what they wanted, is when I'm building a house, if you decide you want to start to pull back and say, whoa, that's a little expensive. What can we take out? Let me get an a la carte package here. I don't need the secured communications piece of this. I'll take my risk. I'm building you a house, Doc. If you're going to start playing in my bucket and take away boards and nails and the things that I need to build it, I need you to tell me. I keep building. Where does the hole go? What? Yeah, I got to build your house. I don't have enough stuff. Where do you want the hole? Something's going to get in, right? Better yet, what's better for you? Snakes, bugs, or rain? Something's getting in your house. Guys, on those simple terms, in that real setting, in a direct environment where you've looked at the doctor and you've said all these things, and you put it in a term that they understand, nobody wants snakes, bugs, or rain. I don't want a bucket next to the couch. I want a complete solution. I wanted a home. I want a place to live. By taking compliancy group, taking what we do and first making you compliant, and then being able to deliver that downstream to your customers, you can deliver something they understand, they want to pay for, and they'll thank you for. That's what RingLogix is done, and that's what they're asking you to talk to us about, is a way to deliver a bigger solution to your clients. Now, Albert, I'm going to kind of pass that back over to you and talk about what that experience has been like a little bit.
Absolutely, Paul. Thank you very much. You did a fantastic job, and we thank you for that. So guys, the biggest thing to take from today is the following. We were in your shoes, okay? We were a vendor that every once in a while we get the question of, are we HIPAA compliant? Are our vendors compliant? What can we do to be compliant? And this is something that we've been hearing for a little while. And every time the conversation comes up, we go to the drawing board and we start researching it, and we get overwhelmed by it, right? I mean, there's certain topics in this industry like compliance and taxes that are just not fun. I mean, we're techie guys. We like to build networks, build systems, configure stuff. We don't like to think about this stuff. And a lot of times you go look at it, and just the beginning of the exploration process is overwhelming, right? You see it, it's overwhelming. And what happens? You table it and you table it and you table it. Well, I'm not going to lie. We did that for a little while, right? Until we got to the point where I came out and said, you know what? I really want this. I want this for our organization. I want this for our partners. I want to be able to say that I'm HIPAA verified. So we started looking around and we shopped for a lot of places. And look, I'm not pitching compliancy group. What I'm pitching is my experience, right? And the fact of the matter is, when I met compliancy group, they just demystified it. At the end of the day, they took all the hocus pocus that I was reading on the internet, they simplified it, and they said, Albert, this is the process. And Paul, I hope you're okay with this, but I'm going to say something out now. The cost of being HIPAA compliant is somewhat trivial. Okay. I mean, the average partner, the average service provider, depending on your size and what you're up to, it's somewhere around $3,000 a year. Okay. But the opportunity that comes from it is ginormous. I mean, let's be realistic here. $3,000 a year, $250 a month. But all of a sudden, you're now qualified to quote that hospital across the street, to quote that 10 location doctor who wouldn't even look at you before. And because of this super simple process that literally is sign up, sign a contract, assign a few employees to it, and prepare your network, you know, they took all this complicated stuff, made it super simple. A few months later, we were HIPAA verified, and all of a sudden, you know, we can go after these bigger opportunities. So the thing here is, you know, when you look at this, you want to look at it as the opportunity that's available to you. You become HIPAA verified, you can go after these bigger customers that wouldn't even look at you before. And then on top of it, now you can educate your customer and explain to them that they need to be HIPAA verified. You know, one of the biggest, I think, misconceptions that there is here, I think there's two. I think one is, like Paul said earlier, right? You do your initial security audit and that's it. You think you're HIPAA verified. And that's just not the case. There's so many more moving parts. And two, sometimes we use HIPAA verified vendors. And because all of the solutions that we sell are HIPAA verified, or all of our vendors are HIPAA verified, we have that false sense of security that we are now HIPAA verified. And I'm under the impression that a lot of customers think that. I think a lot of the medical customers out there think, okay, my MSP is HIPAA verified, all their solutions are selling me on HIPAA verified, therefore I'm HIPAA verified. No, that's actually not the case, because they haven't trained their employees, they don't have documented processes, they don't have ways to handle communication. So the truth of the matter is they're not protected. And by not being HIPAA verified, not only are you not protected, you don't go after these opportunities, or you can't go after these opportunities, but you have this huge liability you're exposing yourself. So for me, when I look at it and I say, okay, I cannot be verified or I can be verified, what's my cost versus what's the opportunity? There's no point in even thinking about it. And then when I work with a company like Compliancy Group that literally makes it so easy and helps us be successful, I really am grateful to run into Paul and Compliancy Group, and I'm very happy that we got to work with them. So Paul, thank you for your time today. I do appreciate that.
No, Albert, and I'd like to thank you. I don't know if everybody out there is aware of this or not, but RingLogix has done one of the more generous things I've seen in this industry, period. So obviously, guys, we talked today, we have a reseller program and a referral program. If you bring us into a deal, you guys are going to get paid from that, okay? But in the case of RingLogix, they're actually taking what we would give them for any of their partners, and they're extending that downstream to you. This is extremely unique in the space. So RingLogix partners are actually going to be able to come on board at a 20% lower rate than anybody else that I'm aware of out there. And that is strictly because you work with a partner that is so generous and so concerned about your safety and compliance that they are literally taking money out of their pocket, handing it to you to make this easier for you. And Albert, I just want to both thank you and tell you that that's really admirable, man.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. And yeah, guys, that's what we're going to wrap it up with today before we go into our QA, which is, yes, we are now not just clients of Compliancy Group, but we're their partners. Any one of our partners or any one of our guests today that does choose to move forward with Compliancy Group, we do get a commission on that. But I'm going to say right now, guys, we're not doing this for commissions. I mean, we're not in this for the revenue. We're in this for the protection of our partners, for the opportunities we create for you. So we're not interested in keeping that. So what we've done is anybody who signs up with Compliancy Group, you let them know that you're on the webinar today or that you are a RingLogix partner, and we're going to be giving our commission as a credit back to your account. So whatever we get from your sign up, we're going to post it back to your account so you guys can use it for future services. Now, at the same time, if you guys do decide to move forward and you do decide to start selling Compliancy Group services or HIPAA verification services to your clients, do know that you will be making some money off of that as well. So not only are you improving your business position, improving your customer's position, but you're also building some revenue for your practice. Okay. Well, Paul, why don't we go over to Q&A? I think we have a couple questions here.
Let me see that.
So the first one we have here, besides Compliancy Group annual fees, what additional costs, one-times or ongoing, did you incur at RingLogix to become compliant? So Paul, you want to speak to a little bit about what the process is like? I know we can't get into exact numbers because everyone's situation is different based on their practice size or what they're up to, but you want to give just a little bit of an understanding as to how this works?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So our reseller partner program is one that you guys come on board. Like you said, it's traditionally $3,000. You're going to get a credit back for that. That's going to come back through RingLogix. Your typical customer is going to cost a couple of $100 a month through Compliancy Group. So up to 35 users, your cost on that is going to be $200 a month. And that's going to address a single site location. We don't care how you bill for that, but that's kind of what I'm here for. I work with, traditional VARs and resellers and tons of MSPs. I can work with you because you can sell that in a number of different ways. You can mark it up. You can build it into your security plan. You can build it into a healthcare managed services package. We have a number of different ways to sell that. But in terms of additional costs through Compliancy Group, there's nothing. We don't charge extra for audits. We don't charge extra for any of the consulting. We assign you a HIPAA coach that is included in this process and give you a piece of software that tracks it all. And all of that is completely included in our service fees. And I actually see a second one here. I'll go ahead and address if you don't mind. It says we need marketing materials. So this is one of the really cool things about this. So RingLogix will have that available to you. And if you come on as a reseller client of ours, we have a lot of white labeled stuff. So we have what's called our Mind Matrix marketing portal. You can go there. You can download full drip campaigns. There's a thing we call the HIPAA compliance checklist. The URL you can download is there on the screen in front of you. And we have a full CRM-based drip campaign that you can launch straight out of Mind Matrix and address your clients with. But yes, we do provide both that, on-demand webinars, everything that we can do to support our partners.
Cool. We have another one here. Can we leverage RingLogix HIPAA compliance? Or are you saying we have to go through HIPAA compliance as well? So yes, that's kind of what we were starting off with, right? Which is there's a misconception that if your vendors are compliant, then that means you are, and that's not the case, right? So our compliance does not waterfall to you because we have no control over your operations or your internal processes. So we take care, since we're your network, we handle that part, and you can answer those questions. And Compliancy Group, being our vendor, they can help you with that part. You don't have to go through that. The only piece you would go through is the training and the documentation part, right? But no, to answer your question is our compliance is not waterfall to you. It gives you peace of mind that your vendor, us, is compliant. But for you to officially certify to your customer that you are compliant and to be able to provide the seal of verification, you would go through the process yourself.
Yeah, and if it's okay, I'll add to that the way the business associate agreements work is it would go, the client would, just say the medical client would send you as the service provider the business associate agreement. You would sign theirs, and then you would sign RingLogix. So you know that you're putting them in a safe, compliant place, and you're leaning on RingLogix to do their part. But the client, because you're the one that's going to be supporting and directly engaging with them, the first point of liability is actually yours. It starts with you, and then it goes upstream to RingLogix, not backwards.
And then I think our final question here is, does RingLogix white label? And yes, that is actually all we do. So RingLogix is a white label VoIP provider. We focus strictly on the channel. We work with mostly MSPs and PBX interconnects throughout the United States and a few countries. We have customers all over the world. But yeah, that's exactly what we do. We do not sell retail services. We do not go directly to the public. We only work with the channel and resell through the channel. Okay. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining today. I really do appreciate it. Paul, thank you very much. You did a fantastic job, and I do appreciate you teaching our partners how simple this can be. If anybody would like to follow up with us afterwards, Paul's information is on the screen. My information is on the screen as well. For our active partners, you can always reach out to your sales execs or your success managers, and of course, you can reach out to me as well. But thank you very much for joining today, and we appreciate it.
Albert, thanks again for having me. Ladies, gentlemen, everyone out there, stay safe and well. Thank you so much for joining today. Look forward to talking to you all.
Goodbye.